Hello, my name is Jeff Standley, and welcome to what I hope will be the first of many episodes about diet, eating healthy, and kind of resetting the diet mindset that a lot of people get into. This isn't really the first episode. This is more of an intro episode, just kind of explain what I'd like to do, a little bit about who I am, and kind of the process going forward, and kind of the goals that I'd like to get from this. First off, my name is, again, Jeff Standley. I'm 42 years old, and I lost 160 pounds through just straight diet and exercise. And it's become kind of a main focus of mine, something that I really get into, something that a lot of people ask about. Of course, having lost that much weight, a lot of people have questions. And this is kind of, over the years of doing this, I've kind of learned a lot of things. Some things really stick out. Some things I'm still learning, and anytime I meet somebody new, I kind of get a mental inventory of the things that they ask or the things that they want to know, and that's where I'd like to get this kind of podcast going. First off, I used to weigh about 355 pounds for probably like 11 or 12 years. Post a photo here or here. Weighed probably, 355, close to 360 pounds, I think at my heaviest. And that's went through 100 different diets, did absolutely everything, the Atkins, just anything that was popular at the time. I tried that. I would go down a little bit and then I would just shoot right back up. Just never found anything that worked for me until I came across, and I don't want to tell you to go after this. This is what worked for me, and this is the aim of the podcast, is to find something that works for you, deconstruct just anybody's diet. For me, it happened to be Tim Ferriss's slow carb diet. Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Body, I'll post that here. That diet, out of anything, really spoke to me. And listening to a podcast with him and Kevin Rose, as soon as I heard him explain the podcast, it just clicked for me. And that's what I'd like to do with this podcast, is find something that clicks for you, something that just speaks and says, the same way that Tim explaining his diet to me, I heard it and I finally said, oh, that's it. I could easily do that for the rest of my life. And that's what I'd like this podcast to be, is to kind of deconstruct the guests that we're eventually going to have on this podcast, and find out what makes them stick to a diet, kind of how they do it. And basically the same way with me. There are certain foods that I like, certain foods that I don't like. And this is the same with everyone. So that's why one diet just doesn't work for everybody. Everybody is completely different. And that's what I'd like to do, again, repeating myself, is what I'd like to do with this this podcast, is eventually bring people on that have different lifestyles, different goals. Not everybody wants to be a fitness god. They don't need to be just jacked in the gym or anything like that. Some people just want to eat healthy and be able to have those cheat days or cheat nights, and just different things that go along with a healthy eating lifestyle. I don't know what this podcast is going to be called. Again, this is going to be a work in progress for probably the first few episodes. But anyway, going back, I'm jumping all over the place. Going back to me, I jumped on Tim Ferriss's podcast, listened to it. As soon as he mentioned the diet, it clicked for me. I hit pause on the podcast, ran to Barnes & Noble, bought the book, and I've been following his diet, or a modified version of his diet ever since. And that was, I think I stumbled upon his book in 2010. Went out that night, came back home, finished listening to the rest of the podcast, and just kind of began going through the diet. And over the course of 2 years, I lost 160 pounds. Picture here, and I basically stayed. As you can see, I've kept most of that weight off. I'm up a little bit now, and I'm taking it back down. And I've done that for the last 5+ years, and it's definitely a lifestyle. It's not a diet, and that's what I want this podcast to be, is resetting that diet mindset, getting away from that and creating a mindset that puts you into the state of a healthy eating lifestyle, which you can maintain for the rest of your life. As I said, people are different. Some of the guests I have lined up, I like the way they handle themselves. They have different lifestyles than I do, so their diet is completely different. Some of these people I've watched over the past couple of years, past couple of months, and I'd like to get them on. And I've already talked to a couple of them about coming on and just explaining what they do to stay healthy, what they remove from their diets, what they have to have in their diets, how often they do cheat meals or cheat days, and kind of what they do to get themselves back on track if they fall off. Over the last 5 years doing this diet, I've gone up and down 10 pounds, but I've managed to keep it off. And that's only because I know what works for me, how I can do it, and basically, like for one, the foods I like, and I know how often I can cheat. For me, Tim's book really worked for me because for one, it was all the foods I like to eat. One thing I find with a lot of diets is a lot of people jump on these, I don't want to call them crazy, but to that individual, doing a diet that doesn't fit what you like to eat in your lifestyle, it is crazy. And I think that's what we need to get away from. These people doing, I don't know, something like a cabbage soup diet or something like that. Like, people will go on these things, do a cabbage soup diet for a couple months, but they hate cabbage soup. It blows my mind. And it's, a lot of people think that's what you need to do, and that's not what you need to do. You can eat the things you like to eat. You can cheat the way that you want to cheat. You can eat well and still have the diet and continue to lose the weight that you wanted to. And again, that's what I'd like to do with this podcast, is basically get that down for people so that they can see how other people do things. Much in the way of Tim Ferriss's podcast, the way he breaks down and deconstructs the minds of entrepreneurs, basically people top in their class. He goes through, if you haven't listened to it, it's a very good podcast. He interviews hundreds of people and basically deconstructs how they think, how they work, how they approach things. And depending on who you listen to and who you like, I listen to his podcast and I see a lot of things in the way that people handle things. Somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, a lot of the things he does is a lot of the things that I like. So his mindset and the way he does certain things, I'm not as much of an entrepreneur or as a go-getter as Gary Vee is, but some of the things that he does really clicks with me. And the same with Tim Ferriss, the way that he thinks and approaches things in the journals, the way he analyzes things really connects with me. And that's what I'd like to do with this podcast, is to find people who their lifestyle and their eating habits fit with you, the listener or the watcher. Basically, find somebody that you can connect with and kind of point you to them and show you. A lot of these people have websites or Instagram profiles, and they kind of detail everything they do. My first guest that I'm going to have on, she documents a lot of things through Snapchat, Instagram. She has a website, very helpful. She does recipes. So if somebody like her and her lifestyle clicks with you, you can basically go to her page and connect with her and find out how she will do things or does things. And that's kind of the approach with this one, is basically find, just deconstruct everybody that's out there, find out what they do. Everybody's lifestyle is extremely different. I'm kind of all over the place on this. I'm still going through what I want to do as far as kind of everything. The podcast, the questions. I have about 10 questions I've already got lined up that I know I want to ask. I think that will grow. I'd like to keep the podcast short, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes tops, just to get an outline of how things break down for that person. But basically go through and outline how they do things. Do they have a busy lifestyle? Do they have a sedentary lifestyle? What do they do to fight cravings? What are their go-to meals? What are their go-to cheats? If they drink or not. I don't personally drink, so that isn't something that I have to worry about on my diet. But I get that question a lot, is how do I factor in going out on the weekends and having a couple beers or a glass of wine? Another guest I'd like to get on the show does drink wine, and she still maintains a healthy lifestyle, going to the gym. She's got a family, husband, kid, and still manages to make it all work and doesn't remove everything from their eating lifestyle, which is what a lot of people think you have to do to eat healthy and lose that weight. A lot of people think you really need to cut out absolutely everything, and that's just simply not the case. And that's kind of what I want to highlight and bring to, bring out to the forefront and have everybody kind of pick and choose the guest that kind of identifies or that they identify with, and kind of move forward from there. I'm hoping I covered everything in this little intro. It's going to be, I think I'm doing my first interview on Monday, so we'll try to get that up. I'm going to try to get this one definitely on YouTube, and then we're going to upload it to all your regular podcast places, iTunes, SoundCloud, hopefully Spotify. I got to check into that one. So we're basically going to have a video version of this and a podcast version of this, depending on what you want to do or what you have time for. And we'll just kind of go from there. Again, my name is Jeff Standley. I think this is going to be, I'm going to post this on my 4-Hour Journey channel, a link again up here. And I believe we're going to create a new channel for this one, so it's strictly the resetting the diet mindset. And another thing I'd like to add to this is, for each of the guests, I'd like to go through and kind of outline everything they do. I'm hoping to have some good recipes on there from everyone. I'm definitely going to post some. A lot of people ask me what I eat, so we're going to have a lot of things pop up with this. The main portion of the podcast is basically going to be highlighting what they do to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and ask the questions that we'll ask everybody. And then on top of that, I'd like to get in some recipes, meal prep, and basically just give people the tools to go about losing the weight that they've always wanted to lose. So if you have any suggestions, please send them my way. I'm more than happy to talk about the diet and everything. No question for me and my diet is off limits. We'll have to test the guests and ask them kind of what's off limits, and we'll just kind of go from there. So please subscribe, let me know what you think, and stay tuned for the first episode.